Good morning. March 6th today. First day that we're going to be in the book of Deuteronomy. We finally got through Numbers and flowing into Deuteronomy now. Deuteronomy is one of the books that is pretty significant to the New Testament. I read that it's quoted 195 times, just referencing things that happen in the book of Deuteronomy and what was said. The book actually contains, the covenant. The book of Deuteronomy talks about God's love for Israel, the history of his provisions for them, the benefits and the blessings of walking in the covenant with God, and the consequences of disobeying and really going against the covenant. Christians today live in a new covenant relationship with God, obviously, but based on the blood of Christ. And a covenant was written on the heart rather than the tablets of stone. It's also going to talk about choices throughout the history of God's relationship with humanity. Choices has been a major thing. I mean, all the way back to Adam and Eve. He gave us choices. It's going to hit on love, faithfulness, and the title, the English title, Deuteronomy. And I'm going to read this because I didn't come up with this, obviously. The English title Deuteronomy comes from the Greek mistranslation of copy of the law as second law. So that's which was rendered Deuteronomon. I don't know how to say it in the Latin version. It says the Hebrew title of the book is translated, "These are the words." From the first two Hebrew words of the book. The Hebrew title is better description of the book, since it is not a second law, but rather the record of Moses' words of explanations concerning the law. Deuteronomy completes the five-part literary unit called the Pentateuch. So that's where we're at today. And we're, like I said, we're getting into chapter 1 through 3 in Deuteronomy. And in the first part, this is to remind the people. The first part of Deuteronomy here is to remind the people of their choices, of the things that have gone on in their life, and really really they're looking over and what I want to say, it's just during their wanderings, they get to see what they're going to be missing out on, and the understanding the advantages of obedience and the disadvantages of disobedience. So these are some of the neat things that are going to happen in Deuteronomy. Again, part of this is going to talk about the law. Moses just reminding them of what they're doing, and they're murmuring and unbelief and by humbling themselves, and that things are going to go a whole lot better. So that's where we're at today in Deuteronomy. Moses encouraged Joshua at the very end of chapter 3 here, who was to succeed him in the aged and experienced in the service of God. They should do all they can to strengthen the hands of the young, of getting out there and getting these people ready to go into the promised land. God's answer to this prayer had a mixture of mercy and judgment. And God sees it good to deny many things we desire. A lot of times He may accept our prayers, yet not grant us the very things that we pray for. If God does not by His his desire is to give us what we desire, but he gives us the grace that we need through that. So again, enjoy the book of Deuteronomy, and I will see you in the morning.